Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast. Over my left shoulder, I was just thinking about this. The Senator hot stove in our last episode was fired up to kick off the season. However, here in the city of Ottawa, it's about 28 degrees, so I may have erred on going to it too early, but it's up and running. The season is up and running effectively with the start of rookie camp. Main training camp starts this week, and we figured let's get things off on the right foot because he hasn't heard that pun ever before. It is David Foote. He is the Belleville Senators play-by-play man. How are things, David?
Pretty good, Steve. Pretty good. Yeah, settling back into the friendly city here after a wild weekend in Montreal and just gearing up for another big year of Sens hockey.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Certainly the parent club is looking very good, hoping to take another step. And by osmosis, everybody trickles down to Belleville, and there looks to be, a lot to be excited about with Belleville. But let's begin with the rookie camp and maybe a general. We'll get into some details on specific players. But as you called both games, the victory over Toronto and the loss to Winnipeg over the weekend, as someone who eyeballed this thing maybe closer than anybody, is there one kind of big takeaway that you have as you leave Montreal about the Senators' prospects?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the organization is in pretty good shape. A lot of the guys who were there, whether they were players who had been in Belleville last season or they were making their, first appearances at an Ottawa Senators type event, I think everybody showed really well for themselves. Both games were very competitive. They seemed to have some pretty good chemistry early on, even after just a couple days of practice in Ottawa leading up to it. So, my biggest takeaway is just that as a group of prospects, they seem to be playing really well together, and I think a lot of these guys can see that kind of light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's a pinhole right now. They can see it, and they know that continued work is going to make that light get bigger and increase their shot at getting a call up. So good shape on the prospect front, I think, right now.
Agreed. Want to talk a little bit about the first rounders that were at camp, and Carter Yakimchuk is the first name that comes to mind, but there were a couple of others that grabbed my attention. One was Tyler Boucher, the oft-injured Tyler Boucher, and the other was Xavier Bourgault, the Edmonton Oilers' first-round draft pick from that very same draft that Boucher went in. Bourgault surprised me. I mean, I've not watched Xavier Bourgault play a lot of hockey, but he looked like from all reports, he looks like a different player right now. What did you think of his, I keep wanting to say tournament. It wasn't really a tournament, but a couple of games over the weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys, I think, on the roster that are in that kind of similar position where, maybe they haven't reached the potential that perhaps they were expected to this point in their career. Again, like you mentioned, Bourgault, a 22nd overall pick in 2021. And battled some injuries last year. It was his first year in Belleville or with the Sens after being acquired in that Roby Jarventi trade a couple of seasons ago. And, I think there's always obviously high expectations on a first-round pick, and different players deal with that in different ways. I think if you ask Borgie about his season, he would say that it was not even up to, his own standards. And from everything I've heard from how he's handled his offseason and his preparation and coming back, there's a chip on the shoulder there, and there's a want and a will, I think, to prove that you're better and to show that you can do more and be more of an impactful player, similar to how he was in the Q when he helped Shawinigan win a QMJHL title. So, him, Bush is the same, right? The injuries, as you mentioned, over and over and over again. I think for his own confidence, it was great to see him come in and make an impact, score that power play goal, and just have a weekend of physical hockey and not have to worry about the injury. Jamieson Rees, similar, struggled to find his footing over the last couple seasons, battled some injuries last year, and then for me was one of the best players on the ice over the weekend. So a lot of guys kind of in that spot where they've got something to prove this year, whether it's because they haven't reached those expectations and some thought they were supposed to, or whether they're your Stephen Halliday types going into second full pro season and really trying to show that they deserve a call-up.
I had Reese on my list of guys to talk about because, I mentioned Bourgault, not seeing a ton of him so far, but that's a guy that goes even farther off the page for the average Sens fan. And I think Reese maybe opened some eyes a little bit, maybe a little background on the kind of player that he is, because he was a tremendous junior scorer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was fantastic with the Sarnia Sting. 24 years old now, won a Calder Cup with Chicago a couple of years ago. I think he scored 17 goals that year, and then was a Carolina draft pick in the second round, 2019, and then got caught up in, a situation that happens to a fair amount of AHL players where he was caught in an affiliation shuffle. With the Carolina Hurricanes not having a dedicated affiliate. So he was I think he was in Charlotte for a bit, and then he was in Springfield where you're sharing an affiliate. So the playing time is, not necessarily going to be what you're looking for if you're not a prospect of that team's main affiliate. And then he got traded to Belleville and kind of finished off the season and found his footing last year, made some strides, but again got injured and had to deal with that. And now I see a guy who, I think has a role to fill. I've been talking about this on some other shows as well, but with the departure of Angus Crookshank, especially here in Belleville, it kind of leaves a vacancy in terms of that bulldog in front of the net. And from the way that I saw Reeser play on the weekend, it looks to me like that's a role that he could fill and find a lot of success doing that. So I think it's, adjust that game to maybe trying to score more of the dirty goals or be a contributor that way rather than be quick and flashy. But the work ethic was, you couldn't ignore it over the weekend for a guy like that.
So there are some of the off-the-page options. Let's get to the more on-the-page for the average Sens fan. That'd be Carter Yakimchuk and probably Stephen Halliday as the club's Belleville's leading scorer last season. People talk about, okay, the 12 guys in the NHL, they may well be locked in contractually. They're just, really good in the top 12 right now. So I can almost see that carved in stone. But right after that, it's kind of up for grabs. Arthur Kaliyev mentioned is maybe a 13th forward if needed. What about Halliday? Is he in that mix? And is anybody else that we talked about forward-wise in that mix?
I think Halliday definitely is. I do think it's a situation where, he led the team in scoring last year. He had some early success coming in late in the season the year before. And I kind of see him on the Drake Batherson path a little bit, where he had that dominant team leading scoring season and then came back to Belleville to start the following year and then had those same kind of results early in the season, got called up, and that was basically it. I think he's just kind of at that point now where, first he needs a hole to open up for him to get the call up, but secondly, just show that you can continue, what you were able to accomplish last year. Show that the work that you put in with Matt Nickel in Toronto this summer and all the extra things that you've learned you need to do as a pro to be successful have paid off. And, come down here with something to prove. Be that guy right from, opening night, and don't let the brass be able to ignore you and what you're doing. So I think that's, he's that close for me. And then there's a guy like Oscar Pettersson where he's really kind of had to redevelop his play style, learn a new position, right? He was not a centerman coming over from Europe. And last year, that was basically the plan with him, convert this kid into a guy who can play two ways up the ice and win draws and things like that. He's a physical player too. He likes to play the body. He's told me he prefers the American, North American style of game and the ice size, etc. So I think this is another guy who now going into year 3 here in Belleville, should he find that kind of success that we even saw on the weekend, scored a really nice goal, assisted by Phil Daou and Xavier Bourgault. I think he's going to be in the conversation as well to be kind of a role player should he be able to round out that game a little bit.
Ready for the big game? Your home should be too. With Celebrate Lights, you can show your team spirit and light up every victory. Sync your lights to your team's colors and let the whole neighborhood know when they score. Match your team's colors celebrate every win, and take the excitement to the next level. Celebrate permanent holiday lighting, the easiest way to set the stage for unforgettable moments.
So, are you ready to take your Ford ownership to the next level? Look no further than Jim Keay Ford, introducing Ford Pass, your passport to a world of convenience and control. With Ford Pass, you're in control like never before. Start your vehicle remotely, lock or unlock it from your smartphone no matter where you are, receive instant alerts about your vehicle's health, and schedule service appointments with ease. Ford Pass puts you in the driver's seat of your car's maintenance. Plus, enjoy access to exclusive perks and rewards, earn points on vehicle purchases and service visits, and redeem them at your discretion. Their dedicated team at Jim Keay Ford is here to assist you every step of the way. They make Ford ownership a breeze. So why wait? Visit Jim Keay Ford today. Experience the future of driving with Ford Pass. Visit them at 1438 Uville Drive in Orleans or online at jimkford.com. And finally, Yakimchuk is the last guy I want to ask about. Well, there's a couple other guys. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't preface it that way because there's more coming. But
so
Carter
many
Yakim, there really are. I mean, even though the bulk of the people we're talking about probably aren't in the NHL radar for this fall, you know, you can see them kind of all simmering over the weekend. Though we do, I guess, have to take it with a grain of salt to some degree. It is rookie camp, and a lot of the guys we're talking about have either got age and experience on their side, you know, they're playing against 18-year-old opponents in some cases, or they've got draft pedigree on their side. So it's really main camp and preseason games that will really tell the tale. But, you know, there's a lot of encouraging signs here for sure. But Yakimchuk is the one everybody wants to talk about. I've probably buried the lead because, you know, he's the guy that's probably most likely to get a job in Ottawa this year, though it sure looks jammed on that right side. I guess a lot depends on Nick Jensen. I'd love to hear your viewpoint from the bird's eye on what you thought of Carter Yakimchuk.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was great. I think that's, you know, he had the type of performance that you expect for a player of that caliber at an event like that. You know, 3 points in game one, didn't play in game two. I think just, you know, to save any risk of a fluke injury or anything like that. But from what I mean, I think that might have been the first time I've seen him play in a game live outside of seeing him on the ice at Dev Camp or something like that. So he certainly stands out, height and skating wise, and the offensive mindset is definitely there. He scored that beauty goal in that first game where he faked out the defender and the goaltender for Toronto. So you can see that the smarts are there. I think, again, like just with how jammed that blue line is in Ottawa right now, I think he's going to need to have a really, really impressive camp to beat somebody out for a job right out of the gate. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if he does stay up for a little bit, but without, you know, being anywhere near the decision makers or anything like that, I would kind of expect him to maybe fall under the Tyler Kleven model a little bit. A guy who was obviously dominant for Clev, the college level, for Yak in the WHL, but maybe just needs to prove himself still at the pro level. Yeah, you're a big kid. Yeah, you've got some skill, but you know, let's put that to work and see how it actually looks on the ice against other teams. Dave Bell has talked a lot about learning to play defense at the professional level. It's not an easy thing. Guys are a lot quicker. So I would expect him to be here at least for a little bit, but you know, with the potential that he has and his pedigree, he could be here for, you know, half a season. He could be here the whole year, but it'll be fun to watch either way.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I'm leaning toward him starting the year in Belleville for sure. Just because when speculating in forums like this, David, all you have to work off really is past trends. And you mentioned the Kleven thing. I think that's a perfect example. Steve Staios even talked about it. It's like, yeah, we felt like he could have played last year, but we intentionally kept him down for another year for the good of the player's development. And so you look at that trend, and then you look at the trend, the decision they made last year. Yakimchuk, I think, you know, he had a terrific preseason in the NHL. He was among the league's top scorers, not among defensemen, but among all scorers. And they sent him back anyway, just out of policy because it's good practice. Go back to junior. And this is at a time, by the way, when he has to beat out Travis Hamonic and Jacob Bernard Docker, who are no longer in the organization. Now that right side is a whole lot better this year. So I fully expect they'll be patient with him, do the right thing, and I think that's why he'll start the year down in Belleville. But a guy who is for sure coming up is a guy you had a lot of looks at over the last couple of years, and that's Leevi Merilainen. And I think everybody, David, is in love with the guy's stats. 3 shutouts in the NHL, a terrific record. Stats-wise, he was the best goalie in Ottawa. But I can't overlook the idea or the fact that he is going to be one of the youngest goalies in the NHL at age 23. Knowing what you know about the player and your views of him, is he NHL ready?
I mean, I think he's shown it already, right? Think back to the 84 goaltenders that have come through this organization over the last 8 years or something like that, and the number of guys who have gone up to the NHL and made an impact like he was able to last year. I mean, there's still some fans, right, that credit him with saving the season to a point when he came up and was spectacular. So, anything I've learned about him over the last couple of seasons is that nothing bothers him. He's not affected by what people think of his play or even the results. Frankly, he's just so focused on his job and what he has to do. And I would have to assume that based coming off another summer of training and with another year of experience under his belt, he's only going to get better. I know Justin Peters and company up there in Ottawa have been working with him throughout the summer and chatting with him as well, and just trying to make sure he's prepared to fill that role behind Linus Ullmark. So the goaltending picture this year is going to be really, really intriguing between Leevi, between what happens with Matt Sogard. Hunter Shepard is on a 2-way deal. So if you need some experience up top in a pinch, you've got a guy who's won 2 Calder Cups that can step in and play some games as well. So I think the goaltenders are going to have to work for their spots this year, but I don't have really any concerns at this point anyway about Leevi specifically and how he kind of fits into things.
Yeah, I asked the question more just to get your take on things. I feel the same way. I think in general, I might be a little more worried about that number, the age thing, just because there aren't many 23-year-old goalies in the NHL. If you look up and down, he might well be going into camp the youngest goalie in the league. There might be a couple of others, but he's right there. But you mentioned it, like, and your conversation with, I'm sure you've seen it, how different he is. He gets those same sort of psychological questions from the media. So how are you doing this at such a young age? How do you keep this pressure from getting to you? He's just like, I don't know, it's my job. He seems like a different cat in that way. And then for that reason, I think he could do it. Is that your vibe from it too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's always that question with young players about how they handle adversity and stretches of, we'll say, poor play or bad results anyway. And he hasn't really had to deal with that too much. Like, the most adversity he's faced is coming back down to the AHL and having to reset himself and play well here in order to get that call up again. So there's always, that question about, should things turn south, how do you respond? But again, based on what I've seen and just the way he kind of acts day to day, I don't think that'll be an issue with him, and hopefully it doesn't have to be, and the results just come.
Yeah. He is an important cog when you think about Linus Ullmark's past injury trouble. He's never started more than 50 games. I mean, nobody starts, Martin Brodeur levels anymore. That's long in the rearview mirror, but, there's every reason to think that Merilainen may have to be counted on for as many as like 35 starts this year. So an absolutely crucial player for them going into the new year. So he's going to be an important storyline. And I wanted to ask you one last thing, David, about the other David. These are the Daves I know. David Bell, the head coach of the Belleville Senators. I haven't had a chance to actually have a conversation with him. We hope to have him on the show here soon. But in the conversations I hear where David Bell is speaking with the media, he seems to be, I don't know, moving into a more comfortable place. And I don't know if that applies to the head coaching role per se, but I don't know. It just seems like some evolution going on there. And he's obviously another guy that's really important to this organization because he's the guy that has the biggest impact probably on the development of these players in the American Hockey League. What is your general thought on David Bell?
It's been actually, kind of fun to watch, right? Bellsy's got a ton of experience coaching, but not so much as a head coach in this league. So to just kind of see the way that he's progressed over the last couple of seasons in terms of those, I guess, outside things that a coach has to deal with, right? Being out in the community a little bit more, which he loves doing, talking to the media a little bit more, which he seems to be leaning into a little bit more as well, which is kind of nice to see. But I mean, he's just developed his style as a guy that players want to play for. He's extremely open and honest. He'll tell you whether you were great or if you weren't. He's going to tell you straight up and say, here's how you need to get better. And then he's going to hold you accountable to making sure you do get better and help the team to reach its goals. I think he's been a great fit for our team, for this community. Being a guy who comes from small town Ontario and kind of understands the intricacies of a market like this one. And yeah, he's been a great support, even for myself in learning the ropes of being on the road with a pro team. I don't think you can overstate how much impact he's actually had on the team off the ice, and then we're obviously seeing some improvement on the ice as well in what I believe is the toughest division in the American Hockey League. So he's been doing a great job, and I think that that's been backed up by the management in Ottawa in keeping him around, especially when there was that whole changeover in coaching staff just ahead of last season. So the proof is in the pudding, I think, and again, like with everybody on this team, I think a big season of development for him as well, and hopefully some more wins and a better record at the end of the season to kind of show some proof of all the good work he's done here.
All right, let's close out, David, by selling some tickets here. I know the doors are always wide open to Ottawa fans to make the trek to Belleville. It's only a couple of hours, and it's great entertainment and a chance to see the future Ottawa Senators. If you're talking to an Ottawa fan right now about the idea of coming down for a roadie to watch the Belleville Senators, what would you tell them?
Well, a nice part is our schedule this year includes a bunch of 3:00 Sunday games. So you can get, you don't even have to get up early. You can get out of the National Capital Region 11 a.m. and be there with plenty of time to catch the puck drop and then make it home in time for maybe a late dinner or something like that. But the drive is super easy. I mean, any of the Ottawa execs can tell you they do it all the time, ripping back and forth, and our prospects will tell you the same thing. It's easy drive and great place to watch a game. The tickets are substantially more affordable than NHL tickets sometimes. And I mean, you're never going to get closer to these guys than if you come to watch them in our 4,400 seat building. So I would implore, any Sens fan, if you're interested in the future of the organization or the prospects, come on down and check them out. Even for our preseason, we're hosting Toronto and Laval for preseason, October 3rd to 5th, and we're raising some money for the Belleville General Hospital Foundation. For that, tickets are just $12. And we're donating $5 from each ticket to the fracture clinic at the hospital, which they're raising some money for. So, trying to tie that community piece into the preseason and add a little bit more excitement. But, BellevilleSens.com, the schedule's there. Tickets are always available at Ticketmaster.ca, and we would love to see as many people as we can from Ottawa and that area to make the trip down.
And you can stream games online too, right?
Yeah, so you can watch games, through the AHL TV on Flow Hockey package, or you can listen free on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network through our website as well, BellevilleSens.com.
Excellent. Well, you did a great job. You and Jackson Starr did a fabulous job calling the two games at the rookie, what do they call it, Prospect Showdown. Keep getting it mucked up.
Showdown, thank you.
Yeah, you guys did a great job, and big season ahead for the Belleville Senators. Do appreciate you joining us to give our listeners a little bit of background on what the young Sens are looking like for the coming year, and I hope you have a fabulous season. Thanks for joining us, David.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve, and we'll chat soon.